Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, presented by AT&T 5G. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Chuck D, Charlie Davies. 1 week until decision day, sort of. I'm fudging the math just a little bit on that, but it is a week until we do our decision day preview, and then decision day is Sunday, October 9th. So, if you think about it a certain way, it's a week. What's up? How's it going, guys? How you feeling? What jersey's Charlie wearing, Dave? I've already done my guessing. He's got a Philadelphia Union jersey with the three stripes on the shoulder. There's a name, and I'm curious if you can get the name.
Brian Carroll.
No. Good guess.
Richie Marquez.
Give me a real guess, for real.
Really good guess. Aaron Wheeler. Wheels. That's strictly for @Folge.
Aguchi Onyewu.
Good guess there as well. Solid guess.
Ray Gaddis.
Ooh.
Ray Gaddis is my official guess.
It's wrong, so you get one more guess.
Okay.
One more guess.
I don't want to give you any hints.
They play with Charlie?
No hints,
Okay.
Wiebe.
Okay.
Done.
Let me think.
A real guess.
Think about the jersey, Dave. Let me
No,
help
stop
you a
it.
little
Stop.
bit.
You're giving to me. Done. Let him guess.
I haven't even given one hint.
Nothing.
Okay.
No hint.
I don't need a hint. I'm about
to.
to nail it right here with my guess that I'm going to say in a second, which is Sebastian Letou.
Nope. Dun. Il
Oh,
Signo. Magic feet. Yeah, wonderful jersey.
Skilsinho. Okay.
Yeah, from
Come
Charlie
on,
there.
Goss,
This is
me.
a good mailbag question for all of you listening, and hopefully are not annoyed by this aside to start the show. What would be the best MLS Cult hero jersey you could have? I'm not talking about going and getting like an MVP. Like it could be, I guess it could be like a D-Row Red Bulls jersey.
It could be Il Signo.
Yeah, it could be Il Signo. Correct. That's
There's
why
only
this is
one
the prompt.
correct answer to this. There's literally only one. And it is
Domaduro.
No, it's a Nick LaBroca MLS All-Star jersey.
Let's go. Could it be half MLS All-Star, half the USMNT one? That's not the
I don't think
answer.
he played for the U.S.
I think he got one game.
No
we'll go back and
way.
check. We'll go check the
Maybe
registers.
Maybe
here.
a January camp. Maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe he was just there. I don't know. Either way, they made a jersey. I'm pretty
Zero caps.
He was
Got
there.
him, Goss.
Wikipedia.
Pew pew pew.
Get out
All
of
right,
my
coming up
face.
today from the AT&T 5G virtual studios. Fun show today. Charlie has been on one in the pre-show meeting. He is going to play executioner.
I haven't been impressed.
He's digging graves.
Never
We'll see what he can bring. Neither have the listeners, Charlie, and we'll get to that mail just in a little bit. As I said, we're almost to decision day. It feels crazy to say it. We've been preoccupied with the international break here. I'm sure that everybody out there listening has as well. We released a show on Wednesday, Club and Country Qatar 2022, summing up what went down for the U.S. and Canada. Joshua Cloak joined us from The Athletic up in Canada. I think it's the best Canadian men's national team discussion we have ever had. So go check that out. And we had basically a therapy session on the U.S. because we needed one as well. It was, I don't know, like what stage of grief we were in. It wasn't the angry part. It was more sort of resignation. But you have to go back and listen to that. You don't think so? You were still on the angry side? You were just hiding?
I was more angry than Charlie.
Yeah, I think he had cashed out his anger.
I got all the anger out. I was solely focused on looking to the future.
Got you. Progress, change, personal development.
Yes.
Can I just pull a Kalen Carr real quick before we move on and say, if you'd like to get back up to speed on MLS besides listening to this show, on Wednesday, we had Laura Failer on to talk FC Cincinnati on MLS Today. And then today, myself and Susanna Collins did a full Western Conference preview. Brian Dunseth, Sarita Patel, and Nico Moreno. So you could search MLS Today on Spotify or any of your podcast apps.
He dropped something.
It was great.
Plug.
It was great. I really enjoy the show. That's how I do my ETR prep, by the way, Dave, is I make the rundown while scrolling Twitter and listening to MLS Today. So it's a wonderful start to basically every weekday for me. Let's jump into it. Michael Kramer hit us up and said, hey guys, an update on playoff seeding could be nice. How are the potential matchups shaping up, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it could be nice, and we'll give you the lay of the land here. So if the playoffs started today, they don't, obviously. There's 2 games left for most teams, 3 games left for some teams. All of those teams are out in the Eastern Conference. Those teams are Orlando, Miami, Columbus, and Charlotte. They'll all play midweek next week. But if the playoffs started today, in the East, Philly would be the number 1 seed. They would have a bye. The number 2 seed, Club de Foot Montreal would play Inter Miami. Ooh, that'd be an interesting one. You'd have New York Red Bulls hosting Orlando, and then you have New York City FC hosting FC Cincinnati, though that could change. Cincinnati are right below that line, 3 points, couple different results. They could jump up into a home game, which would be absolutely nutty. We'll talk Pat Noonan for Coach of the Year in just a little bit. Out west, LAFC would have the bye, of course. They've already wrapped that one up. They're atop the West. The number 2 seed would be Austin. They would host Minnesota, who are hanging on for dear life, but don't really have like a super credible challenger right now to jump them. We'll talk more about that in a second. Dallas would be the 3 seed. They would host Portland. Nashville would be the 4th seed. They would host the LA Galaxy, but just a point separates Nashville and LA. 538 odds. I look at them after every single round of games. Here's some interesting nuggets for you guys. FC Cincinnati, a year after winning the Spoon, and 3 spoons in a row, of course, 97% to make the playoffs, says 538. 97%. LA Galaxy, who were in sort of life support mode, 95%. Orlando City, 90%. They have beef with you, Charlie. Minnesota, 87%. So that's got to be pretty reassuring for the Loons fans out there. Portland on 76, and then it's Inter Miami on 58, Columbus on 45. So basically 538 is saying it's close to a coin flip between those 2 teams to get the final spot out east. RSL holding on for dear life. Definitely would have to win against LA this weekend, 34%. And then Atlanta, Seattle, Charlotte, and Vancouver all technically alive, but 6% chance and under. So that's sort of the wrap up right now. It's a week till decision day. We didn't really hit that because we were so immersed in El Seno. How do you feel about that, guys? It feels like this season at points was creeping, and now that we're here, I sort of feel like it was just a flash in front of my eyes and was gone.
Time, Weeby. It'll really do things to you. Don't have a response to that. I would say, for me, I think the race for the playoffs have been so intense, along with the Golden Boot and the MVP and all that. That's where I think, for me, it's kind of popped up, where it's like every week, the Galaxy have solidified themselves, then they fall apart. Minnesota's gone, then they fall apart. Orlando, question marks, then they come storming on. Inter Miami, they let their opportunity go, then they come storming back. And I think I've had so much focus in that. It's basically felt like playoffs for a really long time that's where it's like, oh, whoa, yeah, decision days 8 days away.
All right, let's talk Supporters Shield. I think that's where we'll start. Charlie, I will start with you. We've got 2 teams really in it, 3 teams technically in it. Right now, LAFC, according to 538, has a 50% shot at winning the Shield. Guess who has a 49% shot? That's the Philadelphia Union. Guess who has about a 1% shot? That is Club de Foot Montreal, who are still somehow alive. They would have to win out. Both their opponents in the Shield race would have to lose out. That's not going to happen. I think we know that. So we'll sort of focus in on LAFC and Philly as we have for a while. 64 points for both teams. The first tiebreaker is wins. LAFC has 20. Philadelphia has 18. The next tiebreaker is goal differential. Plus 28 for LAFC, plus 46 for Philly. So they have that tiebreaker, but they don't have the wins tiebreaker. So they've got to win this basically on points, or they're not going to points, or LAFC have to lose out. And if LAFC lose out, obviously they would win. Then it's goals scored, 64 for LAFC, 68 for Philly. LAFC are at Portland, then home against Nashville. Philly are at Charlotte this weekend, though I guess there are some hurricane issues there. And as an aside, best to all of our listeners, supporters, literally anybody in the state of Florida or in the Southeast. I hope everything's going okay for you. You are safe. Philly have Charlotte. They're at Charlotte, and then it's Toronto at home.
I'm going Philly.
It?
I'm going Philly wins.
Says the man wearing a Union jersey.
Well, Nashville and away at Portland are 2 difficult games. Really difficult. Portland are as hot as anybody in the league. If you're looking at Portland's last 5 games, 4 wins and a draw. And they know how to grind out results. So that's a really difficult game. I wouldn't even expect LAFC to win that game. And then if you have to be honest, Charlotte and TFC, for me, they're both out. So they're already thinking about next year. Maybe Charlotte still has a hope, a slim hope that they can make it. But for me, they're done. So TFC and Charlotte, both out. Philly's steamrolling, and they want to continue into that fine form into the playoffs, knowing that they're going to have a bye. So Nashville, again, another team that Hani Mukhtar, they're tough defensively. LAFC have a really difficult way to finish this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just on schedule, strictly on.
Wow.
Well, I didn't.
Anders, freeze this moment in time. Freeze this moment in time. 6 months ago, LAFC, they're going to win the quad. They're going to win Community
I don't know that
Shield.
I said that.
They're going to win the Asian Champions League. They're going to win the Indian Premier League.
Oh, he's coming at you hard right now.
A month and a half ago, I came on the show. I said, Philly wins Supporter Shield. All of you picked LAFC. All of you. Now you're all on my train. Welcome.
Yeah, I just had to jump on before you could get on. Let me extend my hand to you and pull you onto the platform, Dave. Let me get you right onto this Philadelphia Union train.
Union fans know the truth.
Choo, choo.
Doop, doop.
All aboard, Dave. All aboard. Don't miss the train. Charlie and I are here. We're ready to go. Yeah, look,
high, baby.
Yeah, I think it's Philly. Just on schedule alone. Who would it mean more to, Dave? Is it just blindingly obvious that it's Philly because LAFC is what we've talked about repeatedly, which is MLS Cup? Or would this, in Steve Cherundolo's first year, with so much turnover, is there like is it 50-50?
I think you could argue back against who he asked me, and I already said yes. It's Philly. It's a club that isn't going to invest at the level that LAFC is, and so trophies are going to be harder to come by. Also, the one they won, I'm not taking anything away. I think it may actually even be a bigger accomplishment, but it was in a COVID year. So now they get to put their name up with other clubs in a normal season. Their points number goes up into sort of one of the better seasons we've ever seen. Plus, with the goal differentials, goals scored, all of that, they're arguably the best season of all time. So I think doing it in that way is big, but just in general, for a Philly club to win trophies is probably more unexpected than LAFC. And LAFC has specifically stated and has clearly shown in their actions through this season, their goal this year is MLS Cup. So it would mean a ton for Philly, and I think it would be pretty cool. And fingers crossed, if results go the right way, they'd actually have the shield in their building rather than having to do the Captain America thing all over
Although
again.
That was tight. That was super cool.
That was your favorite moment of the year.
There was some real MLS folklore aspects to that one. I agree with you. I think the reason why it would mean more too, just from sort of like a club building theoretical sense, is that it was sort of a doubling down on what it was that got them the shield the first time. Like it's just a continued commitment and reiteration of the success that can come with this sort of homegrown and, let's be honest, like bargain bin European transfer strategy that they have. Like, we can do it the same way and we can get the same results. We can stay at the top of the league. This is sustainable, even on this budget that we have that might not be the same as other teams. And I heard Dunseth on MLS Today talking about budgets, and he's absolutely right. Like, just because you have money and you spend money doesn't mean that you are going to succeed. Look at Toronto FC this year. Look at the Chicago Fire this year. You know, I mean, even I don't want to. I guess Seattle has a trophy under, so I won't throw your boys under the bus in that way. But like, it's no guarantee. You can spend a ton of money and you can spend it poorly. You can have like a culture within your club that isn't conducive to actually winning. The Union went out after years and years of being, not competitive in a playoff sense, and have sustained it. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. So I agree with you on that as well. It would be a reiteration of like, hey, we did it with Brendan, we did it with Mark McKenzie, then we sold those guys for big money, then we reloaded from the academy, then we made really smart signings from overseas at numbers that, other teams are not getting the same value from, and boom, here we are again. Who's more likely, though, to make MLS Cup, Charlie, between these two teams?
Philly.
Because, wow, are we 3 for 3 on Philly right now?
Way.
Philly. It's not even
No way.
It's not even close. Philly.
Okay.
If you look
Charlie.
at the Eastern Conference and how they just have absolutely torched everybody. You look at their goal differential, 46. The next is 10. They're at home. They crush teams at home. So Philadelphia, for me, is the clear, obvious choice to get to the MLS Cup final.
So Charlie, I don't knock your Philly take
between the two
in terms of Philly's ability. Yes.
Okay.
Who is the third MLS Cup favorite right now in Major League Soccer?
Montreal.
Who is the fourth?
Probably.
Either way, Philly plays at home.
Maybe
single
maybe
game.
Even Nashville.
So,
no way, it's Nashville. By the way, I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying the East is stronger. So I agree with you on the Philly takes.
11.
Also, when Philly rolls
5
teams at home,
they do not lose at home. How can you say that LAFC between the two? Because LAFC, we've seen how unpredictable they are.
Charlie, LAFC has more home wins and they have 1 home loss. So I don't know that I'm not sure this is truly the point that you think it is right now.
Well, it is because one, they've lost, where Philly has not lost. One is a loss. It's an L. Okay.
Sure, but
Philly
they've won
0
twice.
L's.
They've won 2 more times.
Great.
If you draw, you go to extra time.
0 L's. 2, LAFC are so unpredictable. They don't even know their first 11 yet. They don't have a true philosophy yet. They don't know where Gareth Bale is going to play. They don't know if Chicho Arango is going to be a starter in the playoffs. They don't know if Dennis Bouanga's with DP, if he's going to be on the pitch. You don't know if Carlos Vela is at 10. Is he the striker? Is he on the right wing or the left wing? You don't know those answers. So at Philadelphia, you know exactly how they play. You know that they are bought into their system, that everyone's fit. For me, the Union have I think a clearer path to an MLS Cup final than LAFC.
So I agree. I'm not going to debate Philly versus LAFC because I agree with you, Charlie. Philly's a better team. They're in better form. They know who they are. They're a deeper roster, or at least in the way they want to be. I agree with all of that. It is, to me, the East is just a better conference at the top. It's harder. So I would disagree with the road. And then I would throw this out there. All those touchdowns, Orlando 5-1, Atlanta 4-1, DC 6-0, Chicago 4-1, Houston 6-0, DC 7-0.
Yeah, they're beating the bad teams.
None of those are playoff teams.
That's fine.
But they don't put up big goals against the better teams, which is fine. I'm just saying that Philly team is different than the one that will have playoff games.
All I know is they're ready. It's they've put in some great seasons, Supporter Shield seasons. They've competed the playoffs. They've always come up short. I think with all that experience, they're ready, especially that knowing that they don't have to travel anywhere. All the games are at home. They are so good at home. Yes, some teams have beaten them coming in with a different philosophy and tactics, but I think they're ready to overcome their downfalls at home. So that's why I'm going to bet on the Union between the two. If I had to pick between those two, and in the Eastern Conference, for sure, is more difficult in my opinion, just like yours, than the Western Conference.
I hadn't looked at it this way, but Philly has beaten one playoff team since June 27th, and that's Orlando. Yeah. So,
and that was wild. A 5-1, but I believe that was a 5-1 after Orlando or before Orlando, one of the two.
It was 3 days after the Open Cup final.
Correct, where they had sort of
at home. Yeah,
they'd expended some emotional and physical energy.
To be clear, they've beaten Orlando twice, so it wasn't just that game.
So it wasn't just the bad teams, like you said, where they've rolled up some teams.
I'm going to throw out some home results for you.
Wait. They only won at Orlando 1-0.
Can I throw out some home results that were not wins?
That would be playing in the playoffs. So.
Okay, home results that were not wins for the Union. I said at home like 5 times. Minnesota, that was the first game of the season. That's a draw, 1-1. Montreal, that's a draw, 1-1. Red Bulls, that's a draw, 1-1.
Don't talk to us.
Miami, that's a draw, 0-0. Yeah. Cincinnati, that's a draw, 1-1. Those are all playoff teams in the East.
Don't give me games that started like in March, April, June.
Yeah,
I'm just saying those teams will have some level of belief that they can get a result, and they're all East playoff teams. How about this? You mentioned it, Charlie, and I think it's absolutely spot on. It is the biggest question mark outside of, I think, center back for LAFC. What is the right mix in attack? I feel like Cherundolo has made it clear what that answer is for him, and that's Bouanga on the left, that's Chicho Arango up top, and that's Carlos Vela on the right, and that is not Gareth Bale as a starting player for this team.
You cannot tell me Gareth Bale is not a starter for this team. Don't even try. So he
is not starting for this team now. Are you telling me that he will then start for this team in the playoffs?
Yes. You don't have Gareth Bale on your roster to bring him off the bench in the playoffs. I'm telling you right now. So whether you play him as a 10,
definitely an ace up the sleeve.
you play him as a 10 in this system, or Carlos Vela as a 10. I don't care where he is. He's on the pitch. Let's be real. He's not going to be a bench player in the playoffs for LAFC.
Do you agree, Div?
I think the ceiling for LAFC is with Bale on the field. And I think Bale playing well and being a part of the starting team is their best chance to win MLS Cup. And Steve Trundle's responsibility is to start him in the last 2 games to see if he can get there. I'm not saying start him in the first game of the playoffs if after the next 2 games it's gone poorly and it clearly doesn't work. But I don't know what you're doing if you're not trying to make it work. And I think that's on Trundle. And with the way the roster was built and rebuilt, this was the goal. And so you can't now, with a week left, say, oh, no. Actually, we really want to win Supporter Shield. That's the focus. And Arango gives us the best chance to knock off. I can't even remember who they're playing right now this weekend after doing a full
at Portland, then they're Nashville at home.
Yes. Right. Like, I don't care about Portland this weekend if I'm LAFC. I care about MLS Cup, and getting there is with Bale at his peak. I don't know about Chiellini. That's a different conversation. It's obviously less controversial. He's probably a starter because you already loaned out Mamadou Fall, and Segura's still coming back from injury. But for Bale, with Bale, yes, you need to know if Bale, Vela, and Buanga and Cifuentes can play together at their highest
On the flip
level.
side, he's traveling back from internationals. So I could see him not starting this game against Portland, but starting Nashville and starting in the playoffs. Tello is a player who he comes off the bench. Opoku is your super sub.
Yeah, he's not playing.
Right? I think Opoku is one of those players who can change the game coming as a super sub. Latif Blessing coming off the bench. Defensive moment, need to add somebody to go wild in the midfield and run around like crazy. Latif Blessing's your guy. But Gareth Bale has to be on the pitch. He's a game winner. When you just
Are we saying you're taking off? Are we saying we're taking off Chicho Arango? Like, I feel like it's deja vu on this conversation, and I felt like the answer was that you can't. But if you play Bale on the wing, you're talking about ceilings, Dave. If you play Bale on the wing, it's been pretty clear that the floor also drops potentially here. The only 2 starts he has this year with LAFC, one is Austin on August 26th, 60 minutes. They lost 4-1. The other one is September 13th against Minnesota. They drew 1-1. He played 62 minutes in that one.
And I don't think they scored with him on the field. I think Vela scored the goal after he went off. Either way,
where does he start? So is Buanga off? He plays on the wing, and then you still have Arango. Is Arango off, and now Bale's the center forward?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way it sets up, because Buanga has shown he'll do work defensively. He'll cover ground. I mean, he basically played him at left wing back for 45 minutes because he trusts him enough to at least try in those spaces. And I think if you take him off and you put Bale on with Arango, now you kind of have no one who's leading the press and no one's who's working hard on that side of the field. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's interesting, man. A lot of difficult decisions and definitely some ceiling and floor questions for LAFC. 2 more games to get them answered before the playoffs. And then, of course, they'll have a bye, so they'll have a little time to see what's happening. But Gareth Bale trying to get ready for a World Cup. All right, a couple more things on LAFC and Philly, but I don't know where it went. There was some yard work going on in the background. Charlie, did you? I heard some. Yeah. It sounded like maybe a chainsaw. What are we working on here? We got a big project going on.
The hedges. It's the hedges.
Oh God, those pesky hedges, man. They grow.
You gotta get that.
They grow. They never stop growing. They don't stop.
I heard Charlie's putting a maze in the backyard for the kids.
Exactly. Oh man. Woo! Okay, Tom Bogert says, sources, expectation is that Philadelphia Union star left back Kai Wagner will absolutely, quote, absolutely be sold to Europe this winter. Leeds United, far from the only club interested, will be difficult for them now rather than that what would have been in the summer. 15 assists, part of the best defense in MLS. So this is the end, it seems, for Kai Wagner, which is, I think, sort of the way that the world ought to work in MLS. Like he's been a best 11 level left back for a long time on a very good team. Philadelphia are a club that say, hey, we want to get the best out of you. And also, by the way, pick you up at a number that is extremely friendly to us, which it was. They sort of plucked him out of obscurity. And now it looks like they're going to make a multi-million-dollar sale. Applause. That's the way it should go down. Hopefully, they have some silverware to show for it. The last 2 weeks, and then the playoffs will tell us. Okay, how about Portland on the other side? We've talked mostly LAFC. Callan Kehoe says the Timbers are in a weird spot where they could either finish out of the playoffs or in a home playoff spot. What should the expectation for them B, given a tough last 2 games for the Portland Timbers? What do you think, Dave? Expectations for this Timbers team the rest of the way?
Just to get in, and it can happen in a multitude of ways because they do play the teams around them for these last 2 games. So it can be withdrawals, it can be other teams losing. I think Portland has proven that once they're there, they're a threat. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. They know what to do and they know how to handle the moment. I don't have a ton of belief in them to get there with the lack of goal scoring, as well as good as some of the pieces have been, the chance for individual errors along the back 5. But for the Timbers fans, I think, as well as for GSF Racing and everyone else, if they're the 7th seed, they're going to believe they can win MLS Cup. So they literally just have to back their way in.
By the way, so obviously hosting LAFC and then at RSL on the final day for Portland. And RSL is one of those bubble teams in the West where the bubble's not quite as strong as it is in the East. Let's talk Montreal DC United because we are talking Supporter Shield. And look, it might be a 1% chance, but hey, there's still a chance for Club de Foot. Montreal hosting DC United on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. They got DC in this weekend, then they're at Miami, so a pretty comfy schedule for them. At Miami won't be easy because they'll be absolutely desperate on decision day, but they are the best road team in MLS, Montreal. That might be surprising.
Something to note for them as well, they're 4 points up on Austin, where if LAFC lost, then obviously Montreal would have to beat Philly to get to MLS Cup. They could host MLS Cup.
Yeah, it's a good point. If those top seeds go out, there is MLS Cup hosting rights available. We'll talk about that in just a second, where we might want to go. Had a tweet from Fabrizio Romano over the international break I thought was very interesting. We've kind of known this. The writing's been on the wall. Impressive performance, said Fabrizio, from 20-year-old Ismael Kone against Uruguay, which should confirm his appearance in Qatar with Canada. Scouts were monitoring Kone again for that match. He's expected to make a European move after being inches away from joining Sheffield United in the Champo on deadline day this summer. So this might be the end of it for Ismael Kone. And we'll find out when Dave gets back what he has received.
From his DoorDash.
Yeah, in the mail. You think DoorDash? You think this is a package?
I'm going to go with food delivery.
Is this a food delivery, Dave? What do we got here?
I wish. That'd be dreams.
It is not. It is not.
I know it's not a
delivery.
wedding dress anymore, but it's definitely something I don't care about.
Nice, nice, wonderful. Okay, Montreal this season, very, very good season. And Alan up in Montreal says, "What potential final would offer the best product to showcase MLS?" We have product, we have showcase, we have all the buzzwords here. We will be going to MLS Cup. Extra Time will be going. We're going to do a live show on the Thursday from Media Day ahead of MLS Cup, which I believe is November 5th. We had previously discussed this in the rundown meeting. And yes, it is November 5th, a Saturday. Where do you guys want to go? What's the best matchup? Like, if you had to dream it, let's start with where we would want to go. Where do you want to go, Charlie? You want to get on a plane and go where? Disney World's in Orlando, so I know that that's a big deal to you, but you go often.
They aren't getting there, so we can forget that.
That's strictly going to be a leisure vacation, not a working one.
Yeah, that's not going to be a working one. I am going to Disney World in December.
Was that 3 times this year for you?
Twice.
Charlie, move it up. I'm going with the Ryans in November. Let's do a full multi-family trip.
That would be amazing. I could go back to back. I'm going to go with Austin.
Ooh, I like it. That would be a fun one. That would be a fun one. And if we do,
I want to be warm. LA or Austin. I'm not.
We're getting out the company credit card. The commissioner will buy some beers for Austin supporters if that indeed does happen. We've made a tradition out of that.
Not just Austin supporters, because we had FC Dallas supporters come to Minnesota. We had Portland supporters in Seattle.
Just show up. Just show up for the beers. Pretend you like listening to us talk about soccer. That's all we ask.
I love Austin, but I would say top 2 for me right now. 1, Philly, because I was at their playoff game last year against the Red Bulls, which was electric, and I love Philadelphia as a city. And 2, Montreal, because I want to be in Montreal.
Even in the chilly. If it's Montreal, do you play it?
Oh my!
Chilly. It's November 5th. Chilly. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. Not cold. Chilly on the scale of weather. Chilly.
Dream weather.
Yeah. Nice crisp fall final. Is what you're saying.
See the breath.
The leaves
see all
changing.
The smoke.
It'll feel.
Well, are you going to take
like a final?
Are you going to take the Hudson River Amtrak up the? just to see the leaves changing. Nice little,
Probably.
it'd be beautiful. Be beautiful. What do you play if it's in Montreal?
I think a sleeper is Nashville.
Yeah, they would have to win some games and climb up the standings, obviously, to like have the head-to-head. Yeah, have that going their way. I don't like. I'll be in New York City for Ben Bear's wedding, so I don't want it. We're not doing New York City here.
I don't think you play at the Big O. By the way, you play at Stade Saputo.
Yeah, I would hope so as well.
Well, you asked the question,
but I did. Yeah, and just to see if you agreed with my
100% Stade Saputo.
I think I'm with you guys. I think like Cincinnati would be an absolute blast. I know their support. I get it. I know their supporters don't like me for my referee takes, but we could bond over a march. That stadium, I think, just got voted. I don't know who voted it. It could be some fake thing. It could be a real thing because it is beautiful. You've vouched for this, Charlie, that stadium is the best one in North America for soccer. So I think the stadium, the culture, just the, oh my God, they did it. 3 spoons to MLS Cup would be incredible. It would have to be a crazy run out west, obviously, because, even winning their final 2 games, they're going to be at 52 points maximum. There's still a ton of teams that would host over them. So that one would be fun as well. But I think Philly and Austin would top my top 2.
Okay.
What's the best matchup, though? If it's Austin, what's the best aesthetic matchup? We'll do it that way. Who do you want out of the East to face Austin in Austin?
Ooh, well, it can't be Philly.
Right. So you have to go down the line a little bit.
Yeah, I would honestly say I'd love to see Red Bulls because it's really just the clash of the 2 extremes. And we saw what happened when Red Bull went down there with the young kids because Austin tried to play through it and it didn't work. Like, I'd love to just see the 2 immovable forces just collide.
I can't see ugly soccer in a final. So I'm going to go with New York City FC. Austin.
You're back in the final, you say?
Yes.
Okay, I would want a new face. I personally would want a new face. I'm gonna throw Cincinnati in there, and just for the Bants mate, we'll go Inter Miami as a possibility for aesthetic fun. Green on pink could be interesting. How about if it is in Philly?
Didn't Austin beat Miami 5-0 in the opening game of the season?
Bonus game. It barely counted. It didn't even count.
Give me Philly, Dallas.
Philly, Dallas. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Give me Philly, Dallas.
I'll take Philly, Austin. I think that would be a lot of fun as well. Also, Philly, Nashville. Remember last year went to penalty kicks? I don't mind that.
Yeah. We have asked Dave what came in the mail. What business do you need to attend to here, Charlie? The vibrations on your table are quite strong there.
Yes.
Somebody's texts are absolutely blowing up. As you decide whether or not to share your personal dealings with us, DC United is the team in Montreal this weekend. We're ready to hand DC the spoon. Are we there?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll say DC has the spoon, but it's not yet official. The Independent Supporters Council has awarded wooden spoons, like an actual wooden spoon trophy, since 2015. But obviously, there's been a wooden spoon winner since the very start of the league in 1996. I am a nerd for the spoon, and I went back and did all the research on MLS spoons over history. So I'm going to test you guys a little bit on this. 14 teams have quote unquote won the spoon, because you don't win it. You lose to get it. But can you name all 14 teams that have quote unquote won the spoon?
Well, this is dangerous territory. I think you should do like once we get it wrong, we're out, because we'll just name every team in MLS.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good idea. Okay. Once you get it wrong, you're out.
Charlie, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
Teams that have won the spoon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a hint, you could start with last year.
I'll start with DC United.
DC United is one of the teams that has, quote unquote, won the spoon. Okay, so Charlie's
Cincinnati.
still in it.
No, Charlie, we go back and forth. You don't just get to name all the teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say FC Cincinnati.
Correct answer.
But I will point this out. I don't know official rule books, but when I had Laura Failer on, she said that FC Cincinnati fans do not count 2020 as a wooden spoon because of the COVID bubble, everything, blah, blah, blah. I'm just putting that out there.
Get out of here. I'm sorry.
You're getting that spoon.
Yeah, that's your spoon.
Every team had to deal with the same situation. You're getting that spoon.
That's yours, period. Okay, Charlie, back to you. We've eliminated DC and Cincinnati from our spoon list here.
Chicago Fire.
They have also won the spoon. It's your turn, Dave. What do you got?
I feel safe about year one. I'm going to say RSL. Really? I always do this. I always go too far too soon.
Woo!
You went too far because I'm pretty sure I know the team that was opposite RSL in that season. Looking back on it,
now
I'm not sure that.
at it.
I don't think that team exists
Hey,
anymore.
can
I
I
knew
go
that.
now?
I knew
Yeah,
that.
you can go. You can
All
go.
right, I'm gonna go San Jose.
San Jose, also a team that has quote unquote won the spoon.
I always
Charlie
do
wins.
this.
Dave will bring you back in just for the
Okay.
fun of it.
Chivas USA.
Chivas USA has
100% Chivas USA
has won a single spoon, which is kind of incredible. It was only one.
Well, it wasn't that many years.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's good.
Kansas
was
City
just-
Wizards.
No, Kansas City have not won the spoon.
TFC, early
TFC,
TFC.
yeah,
was
TFC
bad.
has won the spoon. That's correct. Yeah.
Houston Dynamo have to have.
Houston Dynamo have not won the
Wow.
spoon. I have not won it.
Montreal is pretty bad that one of those
Montreal,
years.
yep, they had 1 year. 1 year they won the spoon. You're right, Charlie. Yep. So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams remaining that have won spoons. One team only existed for fewer years than Chivas even.
I'm trying to think when I was in.
Is in an area that we hope is
Tampa?
really is
Yeah.
recovering from any and all hurricanes and tropical storms at the moment. So Tampa is
Oh,
one of those teams.
Vancouver's gotta be up in
Vancouver's not there. That's your first miss, Charlie. Swing and a
there.
miss.
Vancouver has not won this.
Vancouver has
nah.
not. No.
Some teams
They-
don't bottom out,
they-
Charlie.
I
Some
think
teams still
Vancouver. I think
grind.
Vancouver was in a tiebreaker situation, if I remember my research right here.
I don't know. They were pretty bad.
Hey,
2011.
do your own research. You wanna question mine? Do your own. What else we got here? Anders jumps into the guest. Didn't the Galaxy have a spoon year? Anders, you are correct.
I'm
Anders,
gonna do
join
some
the party
dumb
here.
research.
Yeah, join
has
the party.
Philly?
Philly has not.
Interesting. All those
Have
years
not. Yeah.
where they were a bit of a off
Yeah,
team.
let's see.
So Philly and Houston. are the types of teams
Actually,
that grow.
Vancouver won that spoon, buddy. 2011. Do your research properly.
I'm gonna go check it right now because I think
Oh
you're
my
wrong.
Yeah.
God.
This is gonna hurt when you get called out after doing your research.
Anders, there's only
and you
2
got it
games left in
wrong.
the regular season. Everyone's still in it, and we're debating.
And Charlie is wrong because the New England Revolution had fewer wins that season, and thereby the New England Revolution are your Shield losers.
Well, was that the tiebreaker that year?
They don't have tiebreakers on this particular.
Because
year.
the wins tiebreaker is new. It used to
They
be
both
goal
were negative
differential.
20 goal differential as well. So those are the first 2 tiebreakers now. That's what I'm counting it as. I'm giving New England
Give
that.
us the rest of the names.
All right, Red Bulls have 2.
Okay.
Rapids have 1. Dallas
knew
has
it.
1. Columbus has 1. So the 7 teams that have quote unquote won it multiple times. San Jose has 4. They lead in that category. The Revs, depending on your tiebreaker, either have 1 or 2. I say they have 2. Charlie says they have 1. Whatever. Red Bulls have 2. DC have 3. About to be 4. So they'll tie San Jose for all-time spoon lead.
Which for DC, go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
Now you're
Usually
leading
it's
in
like
MLS.
a first.
Now
Usually
you're
it's
leading in
first after
MLS
the-
Cups and spoons.
Wayne's taking you to the promised land next year,
Yeah.
top of the East. Fire have 3. Toronto have 2. Cincy obviously have 3. So there you have it.
Debatable.
All right. Let's talk East bubble teams missing the playoffs. For which East bubble team would it be the most painful and usher in perhaps some change, TBD, if they were to miss the playoffs this year? And here is your Eastern Conference bubble in case you needed reminding. Currently the line is at 42 points. Tiebreakers have Inter Miami, who have more wins, 3 more than Columbus, above the line while the Crew are below. Orlando could technically be pulled in, but we kind of know they won't. So it's really Miami, Columbus, and
disagree with that,
maybe
by the
Atlanta.
way.
You don't think
Orlando plays NYCFC, then they play at Inter Miami midweek. You don't think there's a chance Orlando loses both those games?
Goals for was the tiebreaker in 2011. So Vancouver actually took the spoon. Doesn't that hurt?
I can't believe Charlie's still talking about this.
So I knew I was right.
I appreciate
had-
Charlie for that. You know what? Maybe I was a little bit hasty in my research in that one and
It's
applied
okay.
some
Hey,
2022
it's okay.
tiebreakers.
So,
okay.
so to be clear, Orlando plays at NYCFC, at Inter Miami, and then hosts Columbus on decision day. And you think they're out? You think they're in already? You think they're locked?
I think that the likelihood of them getting in is above 75%.
You think who's getting in?
Orlando.
Orlando.
No, he tried to take them out of the bubble convo. That's what just happened.
Are you gonna put Cincy in the
thing-
bubble combo?
Also, I love that you took 538's number and just went slightly below it and acted like,
you
off the top of my head.
You noticed that, right? I wondered if you would. I wondered. You can't sneak anything by this crew right now.
To answer your question, I think it would be the crew, considering new stadium, Cucho Hernandez, back-to-back seasons of not making the playoffs after winning MLS Cup. For me, that is territory for you're starting to think about the future and reshuffling things, because that's just not good enough. If you go into the last game, which I think it's going to come down to Orlando and the crew, Orlando, all they have to do is get a draw because they have the tiebreaker. And, I'm like, crew could easily be out. This is one of those moments where you're looking at the rest of the schedule, and the crew have New York Red Bulls, which is a difficult game, whether you're playing home or away, and the Red Bulls are better on the road. Then they're away at Charlotte, and Charlotte's, they're just playing for fun at this point. They want to end the season on a good note. And Swiderski, he's trying to play his way into starting and being a big part of the Poland World Cup team. So that's going to be a difficult game. I think it's going to come to, and they could win that, and they still need to get a win against Orlando, which is crazy.
At Orlando.
Yes. And a draw is not good enough.
I agree. It's the crew. The crew have the most sort of on the line. Atlanta, they kind of have been given up on a little bit. I mean, you're the gravedigger, Charlie.
No.
You could.
Yeah, buried. Absolutely buried. No chance.
Put them under. Just put them under.
Yeah, they're done.
You had a
the
point
Revs.
to make. Somebody had a
reburied.
Dig them up. Put them back under.
Yeah.
Is there a more interesting sort of like weird storyline, maybe even, like not in international soccer, but for us MLS nerds, than Thiago Almada playing for Argentina, getting dapped up by Messi publicly, but being on a non-playoff team?
It is crazy to me.
It's weird.
Yeah. My man is super talented. Most likely going to the World Cup, getting shout outs from the GOAT, Leo Messi, and his team's not going to make the playoffs. What? In what world are
players? They're in the locker room, and Leo's like, "Hey, how's the season going? You guys gonna get the cup? Like Atlanta United, big club. I see the transfer fees." And so I was like, "Oh yeah, man. Oh for sure."
No, I'm gonna be off for like a good month and a half.
Yeah, we're gonna be chilling. Can I come train with you? Could be cool. Yeah. Could be cool. New England.
But he's a baller, so what a quality signing.
Would you like to rebury New England right now? I have a Bruce Arena quote here that I can start you out on from the media.
Let's go.
Quote, "We lost some good players. We didn't replace them the way we needed to. We had a lot of injuries. We made a lot of mistakes on the field and off, and we have to get it better for next year."
Yeah, that's admitting to vacation time. It's over. They had too many opportunities to put themselves in a good position, and it's gone. Long gone.
The other thing he said in this is that there are things regarding the team that the media isn't aware of. Added, quote, "I don't want to make things public. We'll handle any matters in terms of getting our team better inside of our team."
It feels like telling people there's something you don't know is not the tactic to make sure that it stays private. That feels like you should go ask people because there's stuff you're not talking about.
It's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. It's like, guys, there's hidden treasure somewhere. I didn't want to tell you about it, and I'm sure you won't go dig it up now, but here are the people who would know.
And
don't ask them.
And some of the things that have been floating around are just like Ismail Tajori-Shradi having an injury that they were not aware of. That's not going to make or break your season. So even if that's the case, that he had an injury that they weren't aware of, and he had no chance of playing, which you would have never traded for a player if you knew he had no chance to play for your team. That's still not an excuse, a big enough excuse to say, man, that was going to take us over the edge, because that this team just wasn't good enough.
By the way, this week in Crew, New York Red Bulls in Columbus. That's a make or break game for the Crew. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus. We already established, everybody knows that the Red Bulls are better on the road. We'll see what happens there. I want to talk Inter Miami real quick. They're at Toronto FC this weekend on Friday. It's the lone Friday game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus. Alex Windley, who absolutely covers the hell out of this team, just kicks ass, takes names, covering Inter Miami. Here's a quote from Phil Neville. Neville says from day one, everybody wrote them off. Quote, "We're the team that has the least expectations around outside this building." What do you think about that quote?
again, playing mind games. He's not wrong because no one's saying, "Oh, Inter Miami, they're going to win. They're going to challenge for MLS Cup or the Eastern Conference." Because I still think they're not good enough in certain areas of the game. But they do have a game changer in Higuain who looks like he's motivated.
Is he talking about now, though, Charlie, or is he talking about the beginning of the season when everybody was like, hey, with the issues that they have, with the salary cap?
They were bad. They were bad. And it doesn't take someone who has no idea with the game to understand that they were getting players wrong in their positioning. The tactics were off. The formations were off. Everything. Player selection. 5-0. They were bad. But I give him a ton of credit, and he deserves a ton of credit for rewriting the ship and getting the most out of Gonzalo Higuain. It could have been so easy where he just says, I'm out, I give up, I'm done. I'm just going to collect with paycheck. I'm done with you guys. But he got him to buy in. That's really difficult. When you have a star player like that who's, not really doing his part in terms of working for the team, throwing his hands up all the time, it's just negative. To turn that negative into a positive, I give him a ton of credit because not only do you get the team going again, but you also brought in Alejandro Pozuelo and you fulfilled a need. So Chris Henderson, I give him a ton of credit for also starting to get things right because there was a lot of misses before getting things right. And so they deserve the criticism, but now putting them in this position where they're most likely going to get into the playoffs, I give them a ton of credit. I'm the first person to give them a salute because, yeah, you deserve it. You got things right, but it was bad. So
Dave, would you call this a miracle? Phil Neville says it was a miracle that they're here considering the player turnover during the offseason.
100%. They're competing this year with one hand behind their back and no core. They're basically an expansion team without a DP spot and none of the allocation that you get to be an expansion team, and they're competing for the playoffs. What I would say in these comments, which are very much like us against the world, no one believes in us, is you might as well because you're Miami. You're not Minnesota or Salt Lake City or even Cincinnati where it's like, oh, this is an underdog city with an underdog team and neutrals are going to get behind you or you're going to be the feel-good story. Like, you are the villain. You are the villain whether you want it to be or not. Then you take the first 2 years of their existence, the way the rest of the league has reacted to them, the punishments they've gotten, the way fans see them.
They basically had a bonfire with all the advantages given to 100%, teams.
But they are, I think most of the country already hates sports teams from Miami. Then you add in the reality of what they've been. They're not going to be the feel-good story for other people. So if you're Phil Neville, you might as well make it us against the world. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
So you might as well come in here and say, no one believes in us. Everyone hates us. Everyone wants to see us lose. And that's what we're playing for. We're the only one. Like, you might as well build this culture because it's going to happen anyway. And
especially when Leo Messi signs for them for 2024. Yeah.
Do they have to trade for Thiago Almada to try and get him?
Oh, boy.
That's a nice inducement. Okay, let's talk the battle for home playoff games in the East. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but FC Cincinnati's right there. They win on Tuesday to Seattle. Got a 1-1 draw in that one. Brenner with another goal. Seems like that's the final nail in the Sounders' playoff hopes. I mean, Anders is saying we always go to Anders for this. He's saying there's a chance, but you don't believe Anders? You can correct me on that.
I'll do it.
Yeah, Anders already said that they're out.
I think it's over, says Anders, and that's the bell has
over.
So
the bell has tolled. Or
if
whatever
they get
that
in,
saying is.
Anders is not allowed to root for them because he has already said he's done for them.
No, they are done. They are done.
Yeah. Christian Roldan came back. There was an interesting red card that I don't know if we'll get to it on instant replay, but I just thought maybe it wasn't a dog shit red card because I didn't think that Brenner was ever going to reach there. Not Brenner, Sergio Santos was going to reach that ball, but it was a subjective call. Went against the Sounders. This weekend, Cincy hosts Chicago. Seattle at Sporting Kansas City. We've already called them done, so we won't pay much attention to that. Cincy, rest of the way. Where do they finish? Home against Chicago, that's a nice scheduling. I'm not going to call it a gift, but it's a nice scheduling perk.
Yeah.
And then they're at DC to end the season.
Well,
so they were the bonus team to start. How things have changed. And now they're just pulling bonus teams.
Everyone plays everyone twice, which means Cincinnati took care of business against good teams. to sit in
Okay.
this place. I think they'll finish
Mr.
fifth.
Logic.
Yeah, I think they'll finish fifth in the Eastern Conference. I've said a couple times they're not a team I'd want to play. I will say it was a letdown, and I know I'm taking a jump here from Cincinnati's reality 6 months ago to now, but they went to Seattle. Sergio Santos had 2 sitters. Brandon Vasquez had a sitter. They played man up for 20-plus minutes. They had a 1-goal lead. If they had won that game, I think they would make it to 4th place because of the schedule they have and what NYCFC has to do, and they would have had a home playoff game. So it's not a failure in any right, and what they accomplished this year when they make the playoffs, which I said a month ago they would, is going to be awesome. And they are not a team I would want to see in the playoffs. I would not want to face off against Brenner, Lucho, and Brandon Vasquez in a one-off game. But it was an opportunity missed on Tuesday night.
It's incredible to say, given the position they're in, and we've established it given our spoon conversation, and maybe we let this go after today, that they are in a position where they've had a number of games this year where they can look at it and say, what were we doing? We either screwed up late, we wasted opportunities, we got a draw where we should have had a win, we lost a game we shouldn't have lost. Like, a team that was in the position they were in to say that and be in the playoffs right now, it'll bring us to the Pat Noonan.
And they were mainly all wins that fell to draws, which is why they are in the playoffs. They were not draws that fell to losses.
Correct. We have the number one Yuya Kuba fan who's saying, is he going to get a formal apology if Cincy makes the playoffs for all the hate we got preseason? I would not define it as hate. I would just say that there was it was a big mountain for you to climb, and it didn't seem reasonable to think that you would summit said mountain in year one. So,
I think we did this last week or 2 weeks ago. Listen, if you're a fan, be happy. When you want to come at us, give me the time that we said that. Because Nwabodo was not on this roster in preseason, and they are not a playoff
was not
team.
the player he is now. Brenner
but
was
even
in
forget
close
that
territory.
Stuff. But forget that stuff, right? Fair. For us, our job to analyze, understand what's going on, to say, oh, Brandon Vasquez ended last year well. Dom Kinnear had planned for him, as is Pat Noonan, blah, blah, blah. But Nwabodo wasn't even on the roster. Miazga wasn't even on the roster. So to say 100% that team was going to make the playoffs without arguably the most important player on the team.
Didn't have a goalkeeper, although, I mean, Alec Khan, you could argue that was I'm with you on this, Dave. Anders says that he will apologize for us on behalf of our questionable takes. So he will he'll be our apology lightning rod.
Anders now is a non-playoff team supporter in MLS.
South
of the line.
Don't do that.
Solidarity. Anders is like, I know how it feels now.
Anders is our ambassador south of the line while we're all covering playoffs. Anders continue to send out positive messaging.
He's got tears running down his face.
He's got a lot of time during the postseason to send out apologies. A lot of thank you cards to put out there into the wild. Jonathan on Reddit MLS, after the 1-1 draw between Seattle and Cincinnati, the final record between East and West this year, 40 wins for each side, 32 draws, dead even. That's insane. East carries the tiebreak by 1 goal, plus
Let's
1 goal.
Let's go East Coast all day.
Get some. What about Central Time Zone? We didn't we should have done Central Time Zone records, but we didn't.
Nah, Eastern Conference all day.
I will say there's one interconference game left, and we all know what it is. MLS Cup. So that will ultimately be the tiebreaker this year between East and West.
Immortality.
Where are we going?
We will where? That's the big question, right? That's what we're going to answer over the course of the next month or so. Nathan, I don't know what to make of his name here, so I won't read the rest of it. With the Sounders poised to miss the playoffs the same season they won CCL, what changes does MLS need to make so it's more competitive for CCL teams so they don't flame out in the regular season like Toronto or LAFC or now Seattle? Are there any changes? Well, yeah.
Yeah. You got to win CCL series.
You can't choke out early.
They did. Technically.
You can't get a forfeited round and then lose.
Yeah, well, they'll use that and say that's because we didn't get our team in a rhythm, but they did win the first leg.
Ask the Rapids back in the day about that early round rhythm that you get to create. Anders says that
nice
CCL
Anthony
teams have
Hudson dig on September 29th of 2022.
It wasn't a dig. It's just a memory. MLS has always helped CCL teams. Anders is correct. So, look, it was tough. That João Paulo injury in the final was just backbreaking for them. and they just never had Rui Diaz this year at a level that they needed him to. But we hope for the best for them in the Club World Cup and beyond. Who's the coach of the year is a question I'll ask you guys. Nick Suberling says, I know there's a lot of great candidates to win this thing, but if Pat Noonan doesn't win it, it's going to be an absolute crime. He took Cincinnati, a perennial doormat, to a potential playoff spot in less than a year.
He's making an argument, and it's an argument for someone who's a finalist, so I can't disagree. I would say
5 finalists. I think there's 5 now for finalists.
Okay. Wilfred Nancy took a team from outside the playoffs to an MLS Cup favorite, and a team that doesn't spend massively, a team that lost Georgia Mihailovic for almost half this season as well.
Okay, so we have 2 there. We have Noonan. We have Wilfred Nancy. Is Jim Curtin?
It's Jim Curtin. It's Steve Cherundolo, and then it's
Josh Wolf.
Josh Wolf.
Josh Wolf.
Yep.
What about Phil of Nazareth? Given that he worked miracles this year.
No, it doesn't overtake what Noonan's been able to do,
or what Wolf's done. I understand it's a different club, but
I was just making a Nazareth joke, to be honest with you, and it just went whoop straight over the top. I hope somebody out there
4 wins to 11 wins, and Austin 9 wins to 16 wins. Those 2 really stand out to me. It's hard to argue Philadelphia, even though they were second place last year, and not giving Jim Curtin credit. And Steve Cherundolo, because last year LAFC were out of the playoffs and now they're 20 wins and they're flying. But Wilfred Nancy, I feel like doesn't get enough credit. I don't think he gets enough credit.
Give him that credit then, Charlie. Let's do it now. Let's start.
Well, predict. Who's it going? I want you to predict. We're trying to give Wilfred Nancy the credit. We can drive that train, baby. Yeah. But who do you think will win it? When the votes come in from the media, from front offices, and from players, who's going to win Coach of the Year?
Interesting. If LAFC wins Supporters Shield, my guess is Cherundolo. If not, I think people will vote for Josh Wolf.
I think all 5 would be deserving. And that's as diplomatic as I can be.
Okay, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, participation Coach of the Year trophies.
Everybody's
for all
Coach
guys.
of the Year.
Yeah. Great job, guys.
You get a medal. Yeah. And you get a medal.
Now let's go to the other side of this. Let's take away participation trophies. We're talking Orlando NYCFC for a second. Orlando with 3 games left. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern at NYCFC, ESPN Plus. Ping, hit us up. Orlando are 3 wins, 0 draws, 1 losses on games that Charlie Davies described as, quote, that's an L on August 25th. We're still feeling that way about at NYCFC.
Catching an L. Orlando's catching an absolute L.
But you realize by saying that they'll probably win because your track record over these last 4 games that's an L is very poor.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm wrong on this one, then I put my hand up. I say, you are right, Orlando. Give credit where credit's due. But I'm telling you, you're catching L this weekend. New York City FC, 2 wins in a row. That the match against Atlas and Campeones Cup final, that gave them some juice. They won their home derby. I think Collins has come alive for this team, back in the lineup. I just feel like all the momentum's going with New York City FC right now. They're gonna hand Orlando City an L. Put some pressure on Orlando in that last game.
Charlie, if Orlando wins at NYCFC, will you guarantee that they'll host MLS Cup?
I would like it, but I'm not guaranteeing that.
Hey, this man has status at Disney World, right? We don't even have to pay for a hotel room. They're like, Charlie, you're coming? All right, we got you, man.
They actually ran the monorail straight
suite.
To his house.
Straight into the goofy suite for you. Let's turn the page to the West here. It's a little bit less complicated playoff-wise in the West. It's a little bit more, the stratification's a little clearer. So I've combined both bubble team that would miss the playoffs to be the biggest blow, as well as the battle for the home playoff games, because it really goes from, Nashville's going to make it, but technically they're only 4 points out right now of being out of the playoffs on 47 points in 4th. So it's Nashville on 47, Galaxy on 46, Portland on 46, Minnesota on 45, RSL on 43. We've buried Seattle. We're burying Vancouver, et cetera, though there are paths for them. But in the West, everybody's played 32 games, so it's a little bit more straightforward. Let's start with Galaxy RSL, Saturday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus. Chicharito's on fire. RSL are decidedly not on fire in front of goal. Dave, you had a good conversation today with Brian Dunsis. So if there are any good nuggets from Dunny, Go ahead and I think drop them now as both good content and a promo for MLS Today.
Hey, you just search MLS Today on Spotify or any of your podcast apps. And
Yeah,
you
it just
can hear
comes
all
straight.
of
It's
it.
just so natural to you. Just boom.
Yeah. You can hear all of it. It was a great
Or
conversation.
forever hold your peace.
Yeah. Do you actually want me to talk about my other show on this show?
I was just if you had takes and or things that were crystallized on that show.
I think Dunny's point was they were playing with house money early because they started hot, but other teams got better in the summer and they didn't. And the moves they made were so late that they haven't been able to affect the team. Obviously, Musovski, I think, would have been sort of the shot in their arm. They needed just a little bit. They just need one goal here or there over the last few weeks, and their whole season would be different. And they brought him in injured late on, and Ojeda and Oviedo as well. So that was one of his main points, and I think that one sort of resonated with what we're seeing.
Does anybody jump the line in the West? It feels to me like we already know the 7 teams that are going to make it. I don't think RSL is going to jump that line personally. So then
I think RSL gets a tie in LA this week. And I think they're alive on the final weekend.
I hope they are. I want decision day, for which we will do
I
a
think
live
they will
show
be.
to
I
be
think,
as interesting
I
as
think
possible.
when you look at what they've done well this year, because even in this run, they haven't conceded. They've been good defensively for the most part over the course of this run. They struggled to score goals. Well, here's your antidote. It's Sega Koulibaly, Derek Williams, Jonathan Bond. Like, they gave up 2 to San Jose late on. It should have been more than that in that Cali Clasico. So I think this is a game that RSL can get a tie in. And with that, they keep themselves alive for the final weekend, which now becomes a playoff game at home to Minnesota, which I think is a pretty good way to end this season either way. So that's my pick.
Galaxy side of it, look, some good form has come at the right time for them. They haven't lost once, I guess, in their last 8 games here. Just 3 wins over that time. A bunch of draws, but RSL at Houston to end the season is pretty kind for them. They have a direct competitor in RSL and then at Houston, whose season is over. Charlie, news coming out here while we were taking a break from talking MLS during the international break. El Tráfico at the Rose Bowl in February 2023. 90,000 people, you would assume. Massive event. Of course, MLS will be on Apple TV at the time, Apple Plus as well.
Let's
More information
go.
to come as we know it. We don't know either. It obviously will be televised and a very big deal. Are you excited for that game? What's that going to be like?
Yes, I'm excited for that game. It just makes the rivalry that much bigger, that much more important, and brings attention to the sport, to the game. So I'm hyped. Yes. Hopefully there's some new players as well.
Or maybe some old players. Some people implying that Chicharito would not be there. He's in the final year of his contract. The Galaxy Guy Pod. Love or hate Chicharito, this Saturday is most likely the last time we will see him play a regular season home game in Carson. Chicharito, not a shy guy on Twitter, comes out, quote tweets it. That means something. What? Ha ha ha. Some people are delusional. Not my last home game yet, pal. Hopefully playoffs, and we'll see if we can get home advantage and next year too. So he's saying maybe he's going to come back. So we'll see. But Ricky Puig was the guy who was promoted on those Rose Bowl advertisements. That should be really fun. Here's some other teams that we'll throw out there.
Also, by the way, as he should be, when you watch the Galaxy play well over the last 3 weeks, when they've played well, not all the time, it is because of the way they play now with him in the team. Charlie's got me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Some other news around MLS. It stays on the bubble in the West. I think Minnesota United, if they were to miss the playoffs, that would be the bubble team that's like, wah, wah. I mean, Adrian Heath got the extension. Debasi goes down, and it's all gone downhill with him. But they had huge expectations. They also just re-signed Emmanuel Reynoso, new contract through 2025, club option for 26. What do you make of the contract extension, Charlie, for Reynoso and Minnesota United's playoff chances at San Jose, home against Vancouver? That is also a very kind end to the season for them.
Very generous, very kind to have that be
a gentle exit.
2 matches of the season.
Yeah.
But if you were not to get into the playoffs, you will have to reconsider a lot of things with this team. And yes, it's great to sign your best player to a new contract, and Emmanuel Reynoso, I mean, he deserves it. He's a baller. But in terms of getting this team together and figuring out how to have success, because I keep going back. This team should be competing for MLS Cups. The stadium's incredible. Everything about this organization, if you can't put it together with the players that you have, you got to make some changes. So if they don't get into the playoffs with these two as your last 2 games of the year, you don't get results enough to make it into the playoffs. You got to switch it up. Got to make some changes.
Let me counterpoint on this one. From the big picture, the way the club's built, the market, all that, yeah, for sure. On this show going into the season, their starting backline was Chase Gapsler, Bakay Dibasi, Boxall, and Roman Mentener. 3 of those guys are out. 2 of them they've lost pretty much the entire season at both starting fullbacks, right? And Dotson was probably their starting center mid when we talked preseason. How many teams are covering injuries like that and still continuing to the playoffs? And I would say there were probably more short-term moves they could have made to contend this year. But with Reynoso re-signing, they set themselves up better for the future. Tyler Miller, they could have flipped him to get resources to get another center back. But Dane St. Clair is probably going to be sold over the next year, and Miller's their long-term starter, right? They didn't take that risk. They had to go out and get Kamar Lawrence and Alan Benitez and spend resources there that they could have spent on center back depth or center mid depth. So, yeah, there's been some mistakes, but there are few MLS teams that could cover all those injuries, and they've gotten the most important player on their team to say, yes, I want to be here long term, build around me.
I think you'd also point to a certain French DP forward that turned out to be not a great signing for them. They've gotten more out of the forward that replaced him, obviously, who has been Adrian Heath's guy the whole time. But I think I'm somewhere in between the middle ground of both of you, which is more should be expected from Minnesota United, given their spin, given the talent level they have, and some of the recent history that they have, as well as there has been sort of an avalanche of pretty impactful injuries and personnel issues, let's say, that they've had to deal with. I think they're going to playoffs. I don't think they're a team anybody's going to face there. But they do have some big issues at center back to solve over the next 2 weeks.
You think no one's going to play them in the playoffs?
Nobody wants to. Yeah, nobody wants to.
Yeah. Well, you said there's no team that will face them.
No. I think they'll be there. I personally think the West does not change as far as the 7 teams in. And the Eastern Conference, I think there is a much higher possibility just because Miami and Columbus are going to play, are going to shuffle a little bit. So, all right, let's talk MVP real quick. Nashville is hosting Houston, Vancouver hosting Austin this weekend. Houston are out. Vancouver are basically out, though there is a scenario that they could somehow get in. But we're still talking MVP here and sort of finishing things up. I think I'm supposed to get a Hani Mukhtar care package this week as the campaign ramps up to try to get that MVP for both these clubs' guys. I did see a story from, I want to say, Arch Bell on MLSsoccer.com recently where Diego Valeri and GBS and all the countrymen were stumping for Driussi.
Shout out to Arch Bell, high school.
Yeah. Legend.
Same high school.
Yeah, legend.
Let's go.
Who you voting for?
You went to the same high school?
Really?
In New Hampshire?
Oh, my God. And Mike Fucito's
Brooks School in North Andover, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Should have known New Hampshire doesn't have those. It doesn't have that.
Right. They do have.
Isn't Exeter in New Hampshire?
Phillips Exeter and St. Paul.
Wow! Look at all these. Look at all these. Different echelon for you guys.
High school in the
Talk
country.
to me about public schools. All right.
Yeah, these are.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're the ones who went there. Not that we've ever heard of JFK.
Okay. All right. By the way, Nashville back to the East for 23. St. Louis coming in. They will take their place in the West, and it'll all even out. So that's a thing there. Who's going to win?
That's also great. By the way,
yeah, it's the right thing.
The way it should be.
Yeah, it's the right thing.
Because now you've got KC and Minnesota with St. Louis
and Nashville with the Southeast,
Ohio teams and the Southeast teams. Yeah,
it's the right thing. Who will win MVP? We don't need to belabor this. We've talked about it a lot, but you can just make your pick here.
Hani Mukhtar.
Hani Mukhtar for you. Charlie, what about for you? Does Driussi have a chance?
He has a chance, but I'm going Hani Mukhtar as well.
I think Driussi's chance is to completely ball out in these last 2 games. I think if he can sort of have something forefront of voters' minds and sort of matches, or at least is very close to matching the output of Hani Mukhtar, he has a chance. But right now, I think Hani is certainly in the driver's seat. All right, on the Houston side, Victor Ariza tweeted out on a Soccer Matters show great show with Glenn Davis down in Houston, that Pat Onstad says that the 3 DPs in Houston for 2023 cannot be modified. That's Seba Ferreira, Coco Carrasquilla. We're a big fan of him on this show. And Hector Herrera. The fee on Coco was just under $2 million, and it's been well documented some of the salary cap / contract issues that were inherited in Houston. Sounds like some of those are at play when it comes to Coco not being able to be bought down to a TAM level, so you could fill another spot. They don't have a head coach. What does this DP situation say to you, Dave? And do you have any updates? I think you had some nuggets on the head coaching side that not reported, but that you can relay to us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's their reality. Unfortunate. You can still improve this roster around those players. And Sebas Ferreira, I thought 10 goals in a year where they didn't have Ache pretty much at all. And they didn't have pieces around him is not a bad return. So it's unfortunate, I think, for Houston fans that it's not going to be this overhaul of this improved roster, but there's still space to get them better. But Victor Ariza at the striker put together a really good piece, sort of digging into just expectations of who would be talked to by Houston on a potential coaching list. Some of the names are ones I hadn't thought of or considered. Juan Carlos Osorio was on that list, which I think is really interesting. He's doing a bunch of work with ESPN right now here in the U.S. Sort of feels like he's trying to lean back in to Major League Soccer and the North American soccer sphere. Antonio Mohamed was on that list.
Turco.
He's a free agent.
That's the most attractive one that I've seen so far.
And he's never coached in MLS, which, to be clear, Pat Onstad specifically said they wanted someone who has MLS head coaching experience. But the connection to Houston, Ache, all of that makes a ton of sense for someone like that. And obviously Tata Martino got on the end of the list, because if you're putting together a list right now, you got to put Tata Martino on the list. Can I hit you guys with some breaking news?
Oh, uh-oh.
That I have not confirmed anyway, but Kevin Baxter out in LA put out a tweet 10 seconds ago that said, "I'm told the LA Galaxy's 2023 option with Chicharito has been triggered by the number of goals he has scored, so he will be back as a GP next season."
Chicharito knew. Ha ha! Chicharito knew.
Got him.
He's like, "Hey, you don't know my contract like I do. I'm back. I'm back, baby." I think that's great news for the LA Galaxy and for Chicharito as well. Now I got to figure out how to not just score goals, but keep them out of the back of the net as well. Let's get into the mailbag here. Of course, all the coverage for, what is this, week 33, I guess you would say? MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, just 2 weeks left. We're almost there to Decision Day on October 9th. First up in the mailbag from Nick P. "Hello, Extra Time. Thanks for the Di Rosario interview. It was a great listen and took me back to one of my favorite MLS memories. If you haven't caught that one, Charlie and I had a really, really fun chat with D-Ro at the All-Star game in St. Paul. A lot of laughing, a lot of stories that I had never heard before. Afterwards, D-Ro said to us, "I can't believe you got me to talk about a bunch of that stuff," whether it be getting a Sony gift card as the Canadian Player of the Year, or all the transfers that he thought should have happened but didn't happen and why they didn't. So he pulled back the curtain a little bit for us, and it was really fun. Go check that out. It's on YouTube as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts. And Nick P says, "I was at the 2006 All-Star game in Bridgeview, throwback, when MLS took on Chelsea. I didn't realize I was sitting in the row just in front of D-Ro's family, but as soon enough, the entire stadium knew where they were sitting. After he scored, I was high-fiving and hugging what must have been his aunts, cousins, and many other friends and relatives. It was a great memory from a great match in Bridgeview. I really enjoyed hearing him recount some memories from that game and dive deeper into his storied career. Looking forward to your next episode." We've got more of those 1v1s coming leading up to the World Cup. Should be really fun. Had an email. Which MLS manager could credibly pull off Jose Mourinho and be a guest in a Stormzy-esque music video? Do we have any MLS managers with that sort of swag, Charlie? If you didn't see it, Jose Mourinho with Stormzy in sort of a like, "You can hate me now, I'm back, baby" video. Who has that swag? Does anybody have that swag? Silence speaks volumes.
No. It's funny. If I'm thinking about the antagonistic view of like someone who could do that and really get under your skin, it would be Caleb Porter. I think he has that ability to just be in a music video and you'd be like, "What?" And otherwise,
you think Bruce could have a little bit of that, maybe?
While Charlie's thinking about it, my version of that was Bob Bradley. Like Bob Bradley just shows up in a rap music video, and he's just going to
Just drop Bob into a Drake video.
What about Schmetzer? Backwards hat.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
I think you need. It doesn't have to be. I think you could go straight normcore with it. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Cool and not being cool. The guy that has the most actual swag, I think, to pull it off would be Jim Curtin. Like I think he has the most actual like.
He's got
cool
shoe game. Yeah,
he's got a little cool guy energy that might be lacking for some. I
it's
could
like
see
hipster, kind of like I'm a city. Yeah.
But I'm like a Philly. I'm like a Philly guy through and through.
I'm going down the list right now. No. I could see maybe Gio Savarese being in one of those as well.
Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney could.
Oh yeah, Rooney could.
Yeah,
sure.
I think I had not thought about Wayne, but I think Wayne would probably be.
Wayne could pull it off.
Yeah, close to the number one on that list.
Yeah, you could go in a couple of different directions.
Yeah, well, maybe someday. Maybe
Maybe
okay.
one day. A Drake video, Bob Bradley.
Yeah,
right now.
Intersection of the cultures, baby. Been right on Twitter. Which one non-American in MLS would most improve the USMNT if you could drop him in the lineup today? I'm going to eliminate Canadians from this list as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could naturalize one MLS player and drop them straight in, who would it be? I've got some tweet replies on this one. Tati Castellanos was suggested here.
Oh, that'd be a good one. That would have been a great one.
He doesn't play in MLS.
Well, yeah, but
he did. He played this year.
Yeah,
so
producer Phil. I gave
counts.
producer Phil a little bit of leeway on that one. Who produces instant replay for us? Cucho Hernandez was a current one.
I was gonna say Tati wouldn't be the guy. It would be Cucho or Raul Ruiz.
Both were mentioned. Both Sebastian
Yeah.
Driussi was mentioned. Willie Agata was mentioned.
SKC.
Yeah, hey, I like Willie Agata, but I don't think he'd be the first one I would go to. Ruben Gabrielson was mentioned, which, no offense, pass. But Alex Collins was repeatedly mentioned. He was the first one I thought of as a left-footed, left-sided center back with international experience at a high level, who can play out of the back, but also has the physical side and ability to quote-unquote play that high line. He was a guy I thought of pretty early on. Had a ton of people hitting us up with like Carlos Heel or Lucho Acosta.
Those would be the ones. Yeah,
because those are sort of the irreplaceable.
Lucas
We don't have anybody
Elrayan.
like that. You know what I mean?
Lucas Elrayan, Emmanuel Reynoso. It would be one of the 10s or one of the
Reynoso.
9s.
Somebody threw in Darlington Nagbe, which was interesting. Jack Elliott was thrown in there as well. Hani Mukhtar as well, but I don't know that there's a place necessarily for Hani.
I would say over a lot of those guys, I would say Diego Chara just to either play a double pivot or replace Tyler.
Yeah. Had a Diego Chara as well in there.
Then
so that was an interesting
then
question.
people start saying Eric Williamson. It's like, yeah, he could be there.
Yeah, well, we did have a Brandon Vasquez ... Oh wait, so that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think
as well.
Bernardeschi could be a player that also adds something for us. He's a baller.
Yeah, Lorenzo Insigne. Yeah, if we just want to take one of these Euro winners, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
It could work out for the US. And we end with this because we joked about Agata. Jake, hey fellas, admittedly I've only watched SKC games this season. There's your start. So my overall knowledge of the rest of the league isn't very high. My question for you is this.
You and Weeby have something in common.
Oh, wow. Can I just, wow. Wow, Charlie.
My hat's off to you,
God,
Charlie.
the executioner, gravedigger, just dug me up, mutilated the body, and put me back on the ground. Oh, well, he says, this season, has there been a more impactful player than Eric Tommy? If so, please throw out a few names so I can watch these guys during the playoffs.
Are we talking new addition or just in general?
I'm not sure.
I'm not.
All respect to Jake.
George Petrovic. I know he's a keeper. But
he's not going to be in the playoffs.
I know,
Here are ones,
absolute baller.
But I'm going to say, if you're going new additions and you're talking playoff teams, you've got Pozuelo for Inter Miami. You've got Facundo Torres. You've got Nwobodo on Cincinnati.
Mikel Ura.
Luquinhas. That's all Eastern Conference. I was just kind of going in order. In the West, in terms of addition players,
Ricky Puig.
Ilie Sanchez.
But he knows. That's true. He knows Ilie though. So if he
said
Ricky Puig would be right there.
Alan
Velasco. Alan Velasco is a good call as well. LAFC.
I don't know that Nashville has anyone.
I don't think Nashville does. Shaq Moore, I guess you could say.
I don't know.
You could say.
I wouldn't
No.
put him
Okay,
in
fine.
that
Buonga,
this year.
Bale,
Are
Teo.
any of them is impact negative and positive, or just
Potential impact.
Okay,
You're the one who said LAFC are more likely to get to Cup.
I said they had an easier path.
Wow. Taking a
Okay.
beating on this show, apparently. All right, that's it for
I
us.
didn't even.
All right, that's it for this.
Well, I gotta go
edition.
ice. I gotta go ice my
Wait,
my
actually,
ego.
it is interesting.
Excuse me.
By the way,
Texas.
it is interesting. It is. It is interesting that most of them are in the East.
Yeah.
Like you look at Nashville, similar. Galaxy, okay, Ricky Pooch, Brugman, those would
Yeah,
both be
Brugman's a
massive
good one.
ones. But Portland, there's no one that they brought in from outside the team that you'd say this year. Minnesota as well. Like Robin Ludd's been the guy. So, yeah, it's weird that most of it's Eastern.
East Conference, shout out.
+1 goal differential. East TI.
And Cucho if they make it,
Yeah,
by
East
the way.
TID. Okay, that's it for us. Shout out to the Rainbow Narwhals who have a big game this weekend against the Cheetahs. We're 2-0.
Okay, shout out.
Not that the record matters.
The thing, though, that they're saying in the Opta notes is the Cheetahs have actually – the underlying numbers have been better than expected the last two games, and the worry is that the Rainbow Narwhals are actually going to overlook them.
We definitely won't. We're very focused on our opponent, and I would definitely say that we're underperforming our XG right now. Hit a lot of posts,
So they
dribbled out
even
of bounds on a
better.
lot of breakaways. So we're going to work on those things in our 30-minute
Isn't
practice.
that the game model?
Look, we take chances, we go direct to goal. That's the way it works. All right, we're going to swarm the ball. We'll see how we do this weekend.
I like the press. I like the press.
It's good stuff. All right, that's it for us. We will see you on Monday, everyone, to get you set for the final week of the regular season. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the soccer. Adios. Congratulations, you made it through more than an hour of extra time. That means you love the show, and if you love the show, you probably want more episodes. Click right here for more episodes of Extra Time, and here to subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. Thanks for following along.